right, I'm Michael. He's Abdul. We're back here. Week, I guess technically one, but it's really week two of BionicWP and what we're launching, the product that we're going to move forward with. The name is BionicWP. We released that in a couple of videos back of the new name. We're actually working on the logo as we speak, making some edits to it to make it look a little bit different. But this is just going to be weekly updates, kind of get back into that flow of what we were doing before when we had the Crazy Optimizer show and showing, what we were doing weekly and things we're doing, but more now at the platform level and kind of what we're seeing in the business and things like that. Today is Saturday, May 16th. It's still Saturday for you as well.
Yep.
So it's still fair to say that. So yeah, let's just kind of talk through that a little bit. We'll talk from a business side and a platform side. We'll see both and go from there. So let's start with the platform and what we got done this week. We had Sprint 0 last week. We had Sprint 1 this week. So
okay,
go ahead.
Okay, so I think just to recap, because we did miss out a few updates. So the idea that we have for this weekly update is just to document our journey for ourselves as well. So something we can also look back at when we are 12 months, 24 months.
I'll never look back at these, but yeah.
But still, you have it there, right? And I think we will look back at this. This is where kind of you can see where you're coming from. So I think, if we talk about the platform, like you mentioned that we had Sprint 0 last week, and then we had Sprint 1 this week that got completed. So the main goal, we had two goals for Sprint 1. The number one goal was to complete the user authentication module. So registration of users, login, forget password, reset password, that module. And then the other module on the DevOps side that we had to complete was the automated launching of containers or WordPress. The target was to launch WordPress automated, where have scripts ready, where WordPress gets installed, Nginx gets installed, all the things get installed and configured. But the guys managed to get containers as well done. So now we have automated container launching, and in the container we get WordPress installed. There are still a few things that we have to figure out on that, but it was good progress on that side. So that was the goal of Sprint 1. We are having a weekly kind of a sprint right now, 5 days. We might move to 10 days later after a few months. But right now we have a sprint that goes on from Monday to Friday. We completed on Friday. Right now, because of the features being large, our code is getting merged or pushed on Friday, which is if developers are looking at this, they'll say no, because Friday is do not ship day normally for developers. We will get into that later as we go forward, because our code right now is just for internal use. So we are shipping on Friday as well, but we will get into a mode where we are not shipping on Friday when we are in a production kind of environment, right? So I think from a platform side, we did have a chance, me and Michael had a chance to look at the sign up, and I was very excited when I could create my first user account and log in, and had a big logout button, because that was something that I think an internal kind of a joke that happened with the big logout button, which I think Michael can expand on why that happened. But yeah,
I mean, for me, I think I learned, I don't know, I've learned lessons through the years of programming, right? We could say we want to log out, and somebody could just tell me, hey, close the browser, right? And now that's our logout function, right? So the developer thought it would be really funny to have about 25-point font that once you logged in, there was only one thing to do, and it said log out. So we had a pretty good laugh on that. We're just kind of teasing the guys that, hey, log out can't just be closing the browser, right? And then I actually asked if we were actually even logging into anything, right? Because could we just hit around a screen and it just redirects us to a page? Because I can't see any information being stored. I probably should have said, hey, display my name at least, or something, some variable that came back on that page. But that was kind of the idea of what we want. But we got there. We got it to launch late last night, and I think we're getting some good progress. We're starting to see things move forward pretty well. Anything else you kind of want to add on the product side? I mean, obviously we'll set up the features to Sprint next week. By the end of June 1st will be the launching of the container or of a site itself. So guys, you want to talk about the containers as well? You figured that out.
So one thing that we are one of the core features of a product is that each WordPress install will be in an LXD container. So we are using LXD, which is we had options. We did look at Docker, we did look at LXD, we did look at Kubernetes as an orchestration as well, but we have decided with LXD because of its flexibility and like the way it works and the flexibility that it gives us without any performance overhead. So we are going with LXD. So, but definitely like using a container does bring some complexities with it. So these guys are figuring it out, and finally we managed to get a container launched, automated in an automated way. The container gets launched, WordPress, MariaDB, Nginx, PHP, FPM, everything gets installed, configured, and a live site on a live domain gets ready, SSL issued. So this all is happening. Now next week, I think for next week, the goal on platform side is mainly to perfect this kind of the authentication feature, because we do have some kinks here and there for user verification and forget password. So figure that out, have that completely working, and then a few other features that they need, like launch site form, having triggers, because by next week DevOps will have their scripts ready of having the launch site. So then we need to start having the connection with the platform, that once someone comes in, submits a form to launch a website, the website actually gets launched on the back end. Another site that we are working on simultaneously is a WordPress site, because we will be doing WordPress hosting. So we are developing a plugin that will be installed on all our WordPress sites. That is basically our connection, our platform's connection with the site. So bringing back the installed plugins, if they have updates available, what's the core version of the WordPress, if it has an update available, what themes are installed, if they have updates available. So certain actions after, like once we had those features, could be performed directly within the platform. So you can update plugins, you can install plugins, remove plugins directly from our platform. And then caching, so that plugin would control our caching as well, that plugin would control our CD and rewrites as well. So a lot of things that plugin has to do. So that is also being developed. So we had our main WordPress guy join in last week. So we are right now, that plugin is giving us all the WordPress plugins that are installed, if they have updates available, what version of WordPress they're using, what themes they're using. So we're getting all that back. So that was good progress in week one. Like the first week that guy joined, to like have that done in a week. So that was good side. We don't, because that wasn't a core kind of a goal for this sprint because of that reason, but we did achieve that.
Yep. So the next thing would be to talk about is kind of on the business side of things, right? So up till date, we haven't really talked much about this other than the personas that we kind of understood of, which we've pretty much now changed to me and you, I think. But the non-technical guy being me, we had a guy that was less technical than me before. It made me feel a little bit smarter. But then there was you, and then we had two guys that were kind of at your level, right? We have, I would say, our goal for, we run a traction style. I guess the meetings, and we use traction inside of our company. It's a book that we use. Sorry, I just lost it there. Okay, and it kind of lays out quarterly what would they call rocks, right? So one of our quarterly rocks was to get 3 joint ventures, and we considered a joint venture anybody that sent us over 5 sites. So not a huge joint venture barrier to get above that. But we have one bigger partner that sent us over 100 sites in the previous, quarter. And then this month, we've had one that actually sent us over 200 sites. So that was one new joint venture that we got. We had another guy that sent us roughly, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 sites. And now we are in talks with somebody that has goals of 100 to 200 sites a month, right? In the next 30 days, he's launching a pretty aggressive campaign that will help him grow very, very aggressively. As his ideas are actually pretty smart, what he's doing. Not pretty smart, they are smart. If I had the ability to execute it, that's what I would probably do as well, to leverage all of it. But we've seen, my goal has always been as, the kind of, I guess, the financial backing of this platform is to get as quick as possible to break even. And then after that, it's like, okay, now I feel okay. We can continue to add expenses or whatever. I want to try to close that gap as fast as possible. and we first started out, obviously not very quickly. I think in August, it was August and September, we went from $45 to $190
in revenue.
In total revenue. That's what we got to, right? Like, hey, good job. As of this month, we're over $10,000, which is actually a huge accomplishment for us.
Yes.
That was our goal. We are way ahead of projections of what we projected. I think next month, or maybe as we build this video, we'll lay out the actual where we're at with everything. It's pretty cool to see. We're going to be part of Baremetrics. I think you said open.
Yep. Open startup.
I love Baremetrics.
Yep.
They have an open startup thing where you can just share your metrics and stuff like that. We're going to be part of that once we get it integrated into our platform. It's kind of funny. Abdullah has two versions in his mind. He doesn't count any sales yet until they're on the actual platform. So I guess in his mind, we still haven't made a sale. But I look at it as we're acting as if we're the platform right now. Yeah. And doing all of those things. So we're getting that value right now. So you can talk about how you see the two different worlds and how I see just one.
Yep,
So,
I think in terms of like you always say, like a 10,000 foot view, definitely like this revenue is like the total revenue, right? But me being more, okay, I'm looking at it from an operational level. So for me, the idea is that, okay, we have two distinct companies right now. One is BionicWP, which we are kind of building the platform on, and one is the WP Health, which we have right now, which has all the revenue, whatever it is, right?
which was two names before that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay.
So the idea is that until BionicWP is ready to get merged, like WP Health gets merged into that, right? Until it does that, it completes that transition. The revenue is not for BionicWP. Now I know that on a 10,000 foot level, it's the same, right? Like it's the same thing. But this is just for me to like kind of dividing the operational kind of the barrier. Okay, you can call all this your revenue, but first you have to get this revenue onto your platform, right? So this is like, because when we talk to the guys, because like you said that we are kind of pledging kind of to be an open startup, right? We will be transparent about all our numbers and stuff like that. So the same thing has to happen internally as well with the team that we have, so they know where we are, right? So for them to understand that, okay, WP Health, which will eventually get merged into BionicWP, has this revenue, but you don't have that revenue right now, and you will not have it until you get it ready to a stage where we can kind of, I can say, okay, let's merge it. Let's kind of bring all the customers to Earth's infrastructure, because that would be a kind of a migration. Like this is something we haven't still figured out how we'll kind of bring them in, because that's a problem that we will look at maybe once we get there, kind of a thing, right? Because I don't want to complicate things right now, because that is a transition that will happen, and I don't want it like we did it last year in like I think September, October, November, these 2-3 months that we did it.
This is gonna be a couple of years out to get these people onto that platform, because I'm not gonna go through all of that again, right? Like,
so it has to be a very automated way. Maybe it becomes an automated way, because the thing is that some ideas that I was just thinking of is that because we own the instances, because even though we use a provider to function some of our things where these customers are right now hosted, but we own the instances that they run on. So we can spin up new instances, install a stack on it, migrate them, and just ask a data center provider to shift this IP to this one. So there's nothing that changes on their end, but the infrastructure whole thing changes. So there are ways to do it much faster than how we did it, because last time we were moving providers as well, data center providers as well. This time we won't be doing that. So the shift might not be that kind of difficult, but this is still something that we will have to kind of go through and kind of dig into detail with. But I think for me, it's just on a more, not on a 10,000 foot level, but more on an operational level that I see still these things as two distinct kind of entities.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to do until, and then once we get to that point, we'll merge them together and kind of move forward with that. I think right now, as a business owner, trying to say you're going to get these JVs is difficult, right? Because you don't know where they're going to come from. One JV the potential JV came from a link we placed
last year, I think September,
right? So obviously, if that one closes, we're going to renew that link with that guy, right? Like, but that's how they found us, and Somebody's doing some deep research on providers and he said, this is exactly what we wanted. We're actually going to build it out ourselves. We're just going to leverage you guys going forward to do it. And we'll see if that comes to fruition. If it does, you might not see us again for a couple of weeks, to be honest, right? Because we're going to have lots of sites to be moving and doing different things. But we just want to try to be transparent. We were at, just for example, like I said, we were at $45 in September. We were at $300 in December, and now we're at $10,000.
We crossed the 10,000 mark, right? We crossed the 10,000 mark. So I think that is it is like in startups, like they say, like 10,000 is a barrier, right? Like once you cross 10,000, definitely now our next barrier is maybe 100,000. That's where the next barrier is. So I think the thing for us is that we did cross the first barrier that is in the startup world. So I think that just gives us more confidence in, okay, if we can get 10,000, we can get 20. If we can get 20, we can get 50.
Yeah, I think for me, being in Josh's plan, where I think I've talked about it before, Josh Nelson has this agency, 7-figure agency that he kind of defines as success and what levels you're at and whatnot. And I think our goal, for me is to get to 50K. That's my next big goal, because that's what's on his chart, right? And then all of a sudden now you're part of the success, right? And I was on my run this morning and I was like, how cool would it be if we had 2 agencies that were over $1 million in his platform? Like, that'd be pretty cool if we get there. So that's our goal at some point, right? Obviously, I think Abdul sees it very easily getting there. For me, it was harder to get there, but with his guidance, I think I can definitely understand how we can get there very quickly. Unfortunately, I've been placed into the sales role currently and having to do this, but I feel like I'm doing pretty well, right? Yep. Like we're obviously growing pretty quickly for a guy that's not a sales guy. Yep. So we'll have to get somebody to do that at some point. But I think just on the business side of stuff, we're still a little upside down. We have more expenses than we do revenue right now, but that number is much, much, much smaller. And I thought I'd have to carry that, I'll say, loan much longer, just because of our projections. I think at this point, which is May, we thought we'd be at $4,590. So we absolutely crushed that number, right? So that's really cool to see that. And we're tracking a bunch of different metrics, and maybe at some point we'll share some of these, like average revenue per site, our growth rate, things like that. So it's pretty cool to see. I don't think our growth rate will be able to maintain, especially what we're doing. But hey, never put limits on things, right? Because that just limits your mind. So we'll see. Anything else you wanted to kind of add?
I think just one thing I'd like to add here, like you mentioned that you being put into a sales role. So definitely you're doing a phenomenal job at that. We are growing much, like you said, we are growing much faster than our projections, right? So that means that at least on that end, things are getting done. But I think one thing that we are kind of focusing on from a platform side is, I think that we discussed it internally as what normally is called in the industry as PLG, product-led growth. So product-led growth means like, okay, we are trying to build an amazing product that, like Slack for an example, or any other product that companies use, they don't have to sometimes talk to the top guy, right? Like right now, Michael, you have to go in, you have to talk to maybe the owner of the agency, things like that. I think that would continue to happen for larger deals, that for the foreseeable future, that we'll be talking to agency owners. But the idea is to have such an amazing product that even when a developer uses it and he goes to the next agency and he goes to the next client, that's what product-led growth is, right? Like you're letting your product lead your growth. Like the product is good, a person uses it, so next time they need hosting or next time they're working with a client who asks, where should I host? You should host on BionicWP. So I think that's where we are trying to get to as fast as we can. So kind of augment 2 layers of growth where we have the kind of the high stakes deal going on with agencies where there's a lot of touch points involved, there's a lot of conversations that have to happen, a lot of calls that have to happen, and then at the same time having a product that's kind of doing the growth for itself. It's going like from.
And I think we're kind of seeing that. I mean, we're in the middle of coronavirus right now, COVID-19, and businesses are shutting their doors and things like that, but we're growing, and we're growing because all these smaller agencies that we've had on board send one site every 12 days, but we have 10 of those guys. So we have one site a day, and we're starting to see these guys just I know it's not necessarily product-led growth, but it's kind of like our network is starting to do what it does for our product, right?
Yeah.
And one thing we talked about this week a lot was churn, right? But we haven't had that much churn yet, right? Like I think we've lost. I think this week we actually lost one guy from one of the agencies. They moved on. We've lost maybe 2 or 3 clients at this point, which is pretty amazing considering the number of clients we have, right? So our churn is super low, and I think that's normal, right? I mean, when you first start something off, they're not going to be canceling immediately. But as we get more of these looky-loo people coming in and leaving and things like that, but right now it's pretty sticky. We're seeing some great stuff, and it's I don't know. It's very exciting. It's my favorite spreadsheet to look at every day.
Yep. We will share maybe a screenshot. We will share a screenshot of this in the post.
Yeah. So obviously there's lots of costs. Our costs are going to continue to go up into the next 3 or 4 months. They've pretty much double since March to July because of the developers and the support people. Actually, probably will go up because we need to hire more support people. Yeah. Abdul is probably going to have a huge smile on his face because he's going to get to the 150 people he wants to get to. But it's interesting to try to balance this as from the business side of the you got to have. There was a moment, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago or 3 or 4 weeks ago where I was like, should we move forward with this, right? Like, because it takes guts right now to do it, considering the environment we're in. And Abdul and I sat down and talked, I don't know, probably for an hour or 2 on it. And we were like, yes, this is a product that we need to move forward. We're so confident in it. I mean, everybody could tell us it's the dumbest idea in the world, but I don't think you and I would listen, and we'd continue to burn through money to get it built, right? And it might be at the end of the day, we might not be able to get there, but right now it's shown, month over month these are some of our percentage: 87% growth, 47% growth, 33% growth, 57% growth, month over month, right? That's what we're seeing in percentages. So right now, in the landscape and the economic environment we're in and what we're seeing, it's pretty cool. So I know that's a lot of business talk, at least for me. I know Abdul didn't talk as much in this instance, but this is kind of my wheelhouse and what I've been spending a lot of time on, and kind of what I've been stressed about, or trying to think, hey, where's the next JV going to come from? Because you don't know. Right? And then you don't know who it's going to be. Some guy could be talking crazy stuff, right? Yeah. And you're like, wow, okay, well, we'll vet it out and see and you know what? We'll see. If it works half as well, we'll still be all right, right? Like, and we'll still get there. So
just one thing, like you said, our network is kind of increasing, like more people are coming in, more. So each agency that we bring in has developers, has a team, right? So when you bring an agency, you're not just getting that agency on board, you're telling maybe the 10, 20 employees there or the developers that there is a product that exists as a solution for what problems they face, right? So when they move on to the next agency, when they go to another agency, that's how you kind of start multiplying, right? Then your product gets to that agency as well when they have a problem like that. So like, it's not just that agency that comes on board, it's like all the 10, 20, whatever people that they have, like they kind of experience your service. That's why support has been it's like a main priority for us. So like, because we do have, like, when agencies come on board at the start, maybe the first few conversations are with the owner or with the main person, but then when it comes to the support requirements, we have emails coming in from all people of that agency getting stuff done. So it's very important for us to give them a good service as well, so then they know, okay, this provider or this service provider does actually what they say they're going to do. So that's like building that kind of a trust. So that's kind of what starts multiplying. So that's the thing, that you just kind of have to give this part of the project some time, of this word of mouth, this kind of product-led growth. It takes some time to start rolling in, but once it does, that's when you start seeing some exponential growth.
Yeah, there was a saying I put in our group chat yesterday, or 2 days ago. Let me see if I can actually find it real quick. Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant, right? And that's where I feel like we are right now. We can't judge each day how we're doing by, all the harvest that we have, because we don't have a lot right now. But all the seeds that we're planting, I think we're going to get there.
And just one thing, like you mentioned that we did have this conversation a few weeks ago if we should move forward, and like I think we should add that at that time, like, we were looking at a huge kind of a difference in costs and revenue as well, that okay, we might have to kind of sustain this big amount maybe I don't know how much that it was exactly.
It's like 15 to 20 grand, I think.
Yeah, a month that we were looking at, okay, we'll have to invest that much money at least for the next 12, 18 months, whatever, the timelines that we have. And now we did move. I think that's the thing, like when you kind of, you kind of take some more initiative, the universe is also kind of, I've always seen that it kind of like, it also kind of makes things for you that, okay, we said, okay, we have to do this and we are doing this. So come today, the difference has shrunk. And we hope that it will keep shrinking as we go forward, right? So I think that just gives us more confidence in what we are doing at this time. Like when we decided to do it, we were not in that good of a shape. Like we are down, like you said, we are.
It's like
down.
You almost had to jump through the window.
Yep.
Right? You had to open the door, jump through the window, whatever analogy you want to use, to then the universe to be like, okay, you really do want this, right? And now all of a sudden we have 15 monitors behind Abdul and a bunch of boxes and all of this stuff, right? Yeah. Because we're getting the office set up for these guys and all that stuff. And it's exciting and it's nerve-wracking, but not nearly as nerve-wracking as it was before. And the gap is shrinking until Abdul gets to hire more guys. Then the gap. It's like this race. Can he hire more guys before I can get more revenue in right now? But so that's a long weekly update.
Yep. I think it was for a few weeks. I think it was a few weeks in coming, so it was a little bit longer. But I think next time we will kind of, not many people who want to listen to 30-minute updates from us every week.
Sure, I agree. All right, well, we'll cut it off now. So that's the weekly BionicWP updates. We'll see you next Friday or next Saturday maybe.
Yeah.
All right, see you.
Thank you. Bye.